We're really fortunate and blessed as a city to have not only multiple professional sports teams, but also professional sports teams who see it as a priority to give back to the community and see it as a priority to care about the people who live, work, and play in Nashville. So we truly, truly are blessed, because I can attest that there are not a lot of other cities who have that same opportunity as we do.
Johari Matthews, Vice President and Executive Director of One Community for the Tennessee Titans Foundation, a role that was made just for her. Since her first real job at a camp where she was encouraged to focus on others' needs, she has been a community driver. My name's Suzanne Reed, LBMC's Chief Marketing Officer and your host for Make It Count. In this episode, Johari and I explore what it means to be part of a community and the NFL. As a native Nashvilleian, she has always known that Nashville was special, and she is excited to see others now embracing that thought too. Welcome.
Thank you.
So excited to have you today. I want to start out with the first question I've asked all of the guests. You've got 3 months left before you retire. What would your priorities as a leader be?
I love this question. For me, I think top priorities would be, given where I am right now and the work that we're doing, top priorities would be, one, to make sure that as an organization and the things that we have committed to on the community front, that we have fulfilled those obligations, or at least those obligations, the balls are in motion. So things are fully off the ground and that we have fulfilled those commitments that we've made to our community partners. So that would be one. The second thing would be, I care about my staff and who they are as individuals. And so I would want to make sure that everything that they need, from being set up for success to having access to fouls, or, having the opportunity to explore new ventures if they wanted to, that I have given them everything that they need to make sure that they are set up for success moving forward. And then the third thing I would say is to divvy out all of my cool things that I may have in my office to all of my coworkers around, because we do, working for a professional sports team in the NFL, you acquire some trendy and fun things. And so wanting to make sure that I am giving those things away.
I love that. Let's talk a little bit now, kind of more about your role, and tell us a little bit about kind of what is your vision for One Community and Titans Foundation. First of all, I love that name, One Community, because that goes ahead and conjures up already really a positive environment. But, tell us a little bit about that. And what does that mean?
Yeah, so we launched One Community about 2 years ago. Actually, this month is our 2-year anniversary of One Community. And initially, it was birthed from wanting to go deeper and wider in the community. The Tennessee Titans, we've been here for 25 years, and we have always had a presence in the community in the sense of, responding to disaster relief, or delivering toys during the holidays, or putting on youth football clinics. We've always had that level of presence, but really thinking about what are some things that we can do as an organization that really showcases who we are as an organization, but also what our values and morals are. And so One Community was birthed out of that. The one stands for opportunity, neighborhoods, and education, which are the 3 areas where we've chosen to invest our time, our dollars, our energy, but more importantly, to create generational change. So how are we impacting lives between Sundays? We are struggling to win games on the field, but how are we winning off the field and in the community? And so One Community really drives that home. It is comprised of programs, partnerships, as well as resources to help and serve marginalized and underserved communities. And so it is something that we kind of put out in the forefront of, this is our commitment to Nashville, but also to Tennessee as a whole. And these are the 3 areas that we want to have the most impact, just using the platform that we have as an NFL sports team. for me, I think it's meaningful because I'm from Nashville and I'm a Tennessean too, but it's really powerful because the areas that we have chosen to invest and involve ourselves in are really some of the repeat offenders, if for lack of better words, but some of the things that constantly are coming up in our city as areas that we need to either address or we need to find a solution or that people are being directly impacted by. And so being able to oversee one community and be able to lead that work, for me, it's really meaningful because I'm able to give back to a community that has given so much to me. And I have experienced a lot of these things firsthand. So it's been an exciting 2 years, but we've also realized like there's so much more that we can do. And we just want to keep being that trusted partner and neighbor in a city like Nashville and with a goal of expanding that across the state.
How do you think being part of the NFL helps or hurts that
Yeah.
effort?
I think being a part of the NFL, it helps because you naturally have this platform, this brand that is easily recognizable, and it comes with a lot of perks of having this larger backing of the things that you're wanting to do. That is one of like the positives of being a part of the NFL. There are 32 teams and we're one of 32. And depending on the city that you go to, the NFL, it's a business at the end of the day, but they also recognize that there is importance behind social responsibility. So how are you showing up for the communities that you are serving or that you're entertaining? So for us, that is probably one of the perks is that a lot of people know about the Tennessee Titans. You walk into a room and people see Tennessee Titans on your name badge or on your shirt and they're like, oh, wow, like we are familiar with it. We know what you all do. And that's exciting, but that's also a challenge because you are constantly being assessed or watched for what you are doing, but also what you're not doing. And so we want to make sure, and there's also this conception that because you're part of the NFL, that you have millions and millions of dollars that you're able to invest and give out. And that just looks very differently across all 32 teams. You have some teams that have ownerships or owners that are very well off and invested, and a lot of them are, but you have others that are like, we don't have the same amount of money that Jerry Jones with the Dallas Cowboys has or Arthur M. Blank with the Falcons. So that's probably one of the challenges is being able to, I hate to say compete, but to really compete with other NFL teams across the league. But that's also true with other sports teams, professional sports teams in general.
Since the inception of the Tennessee Titans, they've constantly been involved in the giving back and doing things in the community from day one, right?
Right.
But to your point, as you said, there's always more to do. So that kind of never-ending to-do list, right?
And the needs are always evolving, and you want that to be true for a city like Nashville that's growing, but you're constantly seeing what was a designated or a need that was expressed in 2020 is not the same as it is in 2024. It shifts, it changes, but you're right, we're really fortunate and blessed as a city to have not only multiple professional sports teams, but also professional sports teams who see it as a priority to give back to the community and see it as a priority to care about the people who live, work, and play in Nashville. So we truly, truly are blessed because I can attest that there are not a lot of other cities who have that same opportunity as we do.
What's something about the NFL community that you think many non-Nashvillians don't know?
The NFL is a business first. However, what people don't know or that they aren't fully aware of is the community part of it, that social responsibility piece that I was just talking about. That is really like one of the drivers to the business of the NFL. And so there is a lot of emphasis that is put into, as an NFL, the league, that is put into making sure that all 32 teams are giving back in some way. But also the NFL is very clear on this is a priority for us, so it should be a priority for you too. And they really encourage, we have some of our staple community initiatives like Crucial Catch, which is all about cancer awareness and prevention, Salute to Service for our veterans. But there are things that the NFL is always saying like, well, hey, what is actually happening in your city that you can be a part of and how can we support you in that? So there are millions and millions of dollars that go into directly reinvesting into NFL cities, but also making sure that causes and areas where there needs to be more of an awareness or we need to bridge gaps, the NFL is very big on let's highlight that for you. Let's, you have your platform in your city that you can, or within your region that you can highlight, but let us put it on a national scale so that we can talk about what's happening and the importance behind why everyone should get behind it or why everyone should see it as a cause area as well. So oftentimes they're not aware of just how massive or how much of a priority the community's relations and social responsibility space is for the NFL.
It does sound like it's a big driver.
Yeah.
And I do wonder if people really understand the impact that you're having on the community that we serve beyond the entertainment.
Beyond the entertainment. And that's the key, like beyond the entertainment, what are we doing? And the NFL takes great pride in highlighting those stories and, like I said, raising awareness, but also putting action behind the words that we share when it comes to these cause areas.
So what gets you excited to be in Nashville today?
A lot of things. So I'm from Nashville originally, born and raised, and people who have a lot of strife and strong words about how we're changing as a city, but it really excites me to see our skyline changing. You and I had a conversation before we started recording about what Broadway and 2nd Avenue used to look like, and it was very, very bare, very slim. And so it excites me to see all of that energy, this entertainment district, but also to see that Nashville is getting the recognition and the love that what I grew up loving about Nashville. And I think that's exciting. I remember growing up, so a lot of my family, I'm originally from Nashville, but my family is from Philadelphia. And so I would always have cousins who are like, no, we don't want to come to honky tonk town, Nashville. There's nothing to do there. And, they'd have all the negative comments. And recently they came about 2 years ago, a couple of my cousins, and they're like, oh my gosh, we love it here. We want to stay. We want to buy a home. And I'm like, no, go back to Philadelphia because we're full. But that is what excites me, is just the growth. I love that we still have parts of Nashville and pieces of Nashville, rather, that really speak to our history and to some of the anchor institutions that have made Nashville who we are, but that we're also seeing this growth and seeing some of those things that are taking us to the next level. So it's almost like a full evolution of who we can be as a city. So that really excites me. And of course, the new stadium in the East Bank. So that's going to be an exciting part. And hopefully we can activate the river and we can start using that as a fun way to get around the city as another unique element of Nashville.
All right, so now let's take a step back and let's go back to Johari's first job.
Wow.
And if you could go back and say, what coaching or words of wisdom would you give yourself?
So I thought about this long and hard because I feel like I've been working for a very long time, which I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. But my first job, besides like babysitting and things like that, I worked for a camp called Camp Discovery, which is for individuals and children with special needs. And it's a camp out in Gainesboro, Tennessee, that's out in the woods. It's overnight. And so my supervisor at that time, her name was Dawn, and she was incredible. But one of the things that she would always stress and emphasize to us was just the empathy part of what you do as a leader, as an employee, as a staff person, but thinking about how you can care more about someone else's well-being than your own. And that has just always stuck with me of approaching everything with empathy versus sympathy. So looking at people as human beings, but also treating people with kindness, no matter their title, no matter their socioeconomic status, but just truly treating people with kindness. And that job taught me that because it's a camp for individuals, children, adults with disabilities. However, they were some of the most brightest, most intuitive people that you would ever meet. And so it was just served as a guiding star for how I choose to approach life and approach working with people and treating people.
So what do you think most leaders, and there's no right or wrong answer, but what do you think they're getting wrong these days related to culture and employee engagement?
I personally think the connectivity. We live in such a fast-paced world, but we also live in a time where there's always the back and forth of should you have remote workers or should you be in person and all these things. But I think leaders are missing the empathy, the connectivity of just being able to truly see your staff as not just worker bees, but really as the people that they are. And so taking time to get to know what they're dealing with outside of work, who their families are, the things that bring them joy. We just don't have a lot of that anymore because everyone is on this hamster wheel of trying to get things done. And so I think that is something that is missing from a lot of leaders because it also goes back to the emotional intelligence of just the social skills of how are we treating each other, how are we talking to each other, but how are we prioritizing relationships and the bonds that come from that.
What would you want your legacy to be? If you could kind of visualize and articulate that now, what would you leave this audience, your family, with?
Wow, that's a heavy question to think about, but an important one. When I think about my legacy, especially for what I do when it comes to the community aspect of it, I want my legacy to be that I was someone who cared about my community, but also someone who believed strongly in the value of relationships, but also the power of relationships and connecting communities to resources. So my legacy, if I had to choose one word, I would hope that I would be seen as someone who was a bridger. So someone who was able to build bridges across our city to connect communities that otherwise never would have crossed paths, but hopefully after crossing paths with me have felt seen, have felt heard, valued, but also have felt like they belong is something that I would want to just leave as my legacy as a whole. And then I hope that people who know me, people who have worked with me, that's something that they also recognize and see in me as well as being a true attribute and a part of my character of who I am. And I hope my children grow up to walk in that same light, but also using that as their North Star as well as how they want to be seen and valued in their communities.
I really like that. And again, most of your messaging today, Johari, has just centered around that one community. I keep going back to that, but the bridging and the one Nashville.
Yeah.
Thank you, Johari, so much for today. This has been a fabulous conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. I've had so much fun, and it's always great for me to be able to talk about Nashville in a way because it means so much to me. So thank you so much for inviting me to be on.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this, please follow, rate, review, and share Make It Count wherever you listen to your favorite shows. Learn more at lbmc.com/podcast.